Hi, everyone. I see some people are starting to come in. So while people are logging on, I just want to do a few housekeeping items. So first off, my name is Kaylee Chomsik, and I'm the Assistant Director of Alumni Engagement and Communications here at the college. While we are all sad that we're not able to cheer on our presidents in person or celebrate a victory at fifth quarter this year, we are glad to be able to provide you with an update by Scott McGuinness, our Director of Athletics. Now, like I said before, just a few housekeeping items before we get started. We are currently set up as a webinar, which means only myself and Scott can be seen or heard. If you have any questions for Scott throughout the update, please utilize the Q&A function that's located at the bottom of your screen. Also, if you have any technical issues, please email alumni@washjeff.edu and we will work to troubleshoot your problem. Now, without further ado, I will turn it over to Scott, who is joining us today from the Morrow Alumni Suite in the Salviti Family Gymnasium. All right, Scott, you're up.
All right, thanks, Kaylee, and welcome everybody. As she said, I certainly wish we were meeting under different circumstances with it being homecoming week here at Washington and Jefferson College. Typically, we would be preparing for a football game this Saturday to cheer on the presidents and all the pageantry that comes with Saturdays on this campus. We would also have had a field hockey game this Saturday morning, in addition to a doubleheader for soccer this week. And a women's tennis match the Friday before homecoming. So unfortunately, we are not having that right now. We miss that. We miss everything that's involved with athletic events on this campus. But I thank you for joining me today for a little bit of an update on everything that's going on in athletics, because as you can imagine, it's still a very busy time. Even though we are not playing competitions this fall, it is a very busy time from planning and everything that goes into it from a coach perspective and from a support staff. And certainly since March, our world has been flipped upside down for everybody. And when the state of Pennsylvania implemented the quarantine in place, we had two wrestlers, Hunter Neely and Michael Heinel, who were at the NCAA National Championship in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So they found out about a day before that they were ready to compete for a national championship in their senior year that everything had been canceled and they had to come home without being able to participate. We had baseball teams and softball teams in Florida and we're having great success. Our baseball team had just knocked off the number 5 team in the country the day before and they found out on their way home that their season had been canceled. So it's been a very difficult time. Our men's and women's golf teams, they were getting ready to play a round at Pinehurst in North Carolina, a practice round. Coach Cluck, our great golf coach, was able to find a way to work that into a spring break trip. And I had to call him while they were in the parking lot and tell them, Coach, you have to come home. There's a very serious situation at hand. So this has been tough for everybody. Everybody on this call today, obviously, has had our worlds changed. But for athletes and for coaches, it's been really difficult. They are very routine in everything that they do. They love participating. They have 4 years to participate in a college sport here, and they want to take every advantage of that. So it's been a very difficult message. And I mentioned this as well because right around this same time, right before spring break started at W&J, we lost one of the valued members of our community and assistant football coach Todd Young. We lost Todd to a battle with cancer, and he battled through the last football season and showed up every day while undergoing chemotherapy, and he really was a testament for everybody to show how you fight through something. And he lost that battle in March. And one of the great troubles that I've had throughout this pandemic is we haven't been able to honor Coach Young in the way that he deserved to be. Our student athletes on our football program have not been able to honor him. We haven't had any games where we could have a ceremony beforehand or any sort of mourning on campus for Coach Young. So that's one of the things that I don't want any of us to forget about. This all happened right around that same time, and students were going home and never made it back from spring break because they just went straight home, and we didn't get a way to properly honor him and celebrate his career. But I will know, for those of you who know Coach Young, and who knew Coach Young, I should say, and we will find a way to honor him, and we will do so once we get back to normal here. along the same lines, like right at the tail end of spring, one of the things that kind of slipped through the cracks, I guess, through everything is that our men's golf team was actually named the PAC champion for 2020. We play 36 holes during the fall season, which we were able to get in, obviously, and during the fall of 2019. And then the final 18 holes are played during the spring. Those were canceled due to the pandemic. But because we got 36 of the 54 holes in, the PAC honored our men's golf team as champions for the 20th time in history. So that's a PAC record. No golf program has won that many conference championships in the President's Athletic Conference. So that was something that kind of slipped through the cracks that I want to make sure that we celebrate as well, is that our men's golf team for the 20th time is PAC champion, and congratulations to Coach Cluck and all the great players. I feel for those seniors, Jake Doerr, one of them, and Daniel Velasco, the other, that won't have the opportunity to play at the NCAA championship because of the pandemic. But I know that they were great here in their 4 years. They were model student athletes, and they will go on to great things in their professional career as well. And the other thing that I wanted to mention as well is that kudos to our coaching staff. Throughout this, recruiting became very difficult, obviously, from March on, and that is a crucial period for all of Division III recruiting, which happens, and students make those decisions in the last 2 months of the cycle. And kudos to our coaches for sticking strong with it. They didn't put their head down, and they didn't say, you know what, like this world's too crazy right now. They realized that a large percentage of their job is recruiting, and they did an excellent job in recruiting 212 student athletes who submitted their deposit to Washington and Jefferson as of May 1st. And to put that in perspective, we've never had a number like that in our history. 212 student athletes, which represented about 61% of the freshman class here at W&J. And that is 100% a team effort between the enrollment staff here at W&J and the hard work of our coaches. So I wanted to mention that as well as a victory that we had during this pandemic period. Never in our history, we average about 175, somewhere in that range. And for us to come in during a period in history like we had, where we couldn't do campus visits, we couldn't do overnight visits, we couldn't have those interactions between coaches and their families and the student athletes, for us to come in about 40 more than a typical year was a great victory for our coaches, and I thank them for all of their hard work with that. So moving on to this summer. This summer was a long summer of COVID planning. I would like to thank our athletic trainers, our sports medicine team, where we have four full-time athletic trainers led by Mark and Mike Laseco. They spent their entire summer trying to get us back to normal, trying to get us back on the field, a re-socialization plan that aligned with what the NCAA was telling us, what needed to be done. Our coaches worked hard behind the scenes as well, in conjunction with our sports medicine team, in order to find ways to get back to practice. So when our student athletes were coming back in August, we wanted to have the safest plan for them possible to be able to play the sport, practice the sport that they love, but also do so under a health crisis that was still evolving. And there were the spikes during the summer, which were very concerning to us, which was very concerning to the leadership of the NCAA. So it reached a point where it became inevitable that we were not going to be able to pull this off. And things that were very difficult for us to work with at the Division III level, support staff, referees, and all the testing that would be needed and involved to pull all of that off. It just became overwhelming at a certain point. And you want to give information to the athletes. You want to have them be able to make informed decisions. So in late July, the President's Athletic Conference announced that all fall sports were postponed, and winter sports were postponed as well until January 1st. So that left a big void for us. It really did. It was a tough message for our student athletes. It was a tough message to our coaches. But they used platforms like Zoom, like we're on right now, Microsoft Teams, in order to convey the message to the student athletes that this is a time in history where we have to be as tough as we've ever been. This isn't going to be a normal semester in many ways, but it's time to focus on what matters most, and that's the health and safety of our entire campus community, our academic academics as well. That's been our focus so far. So it has been a tough time. And to be honest, when the NCAA and the PAC looks at these type of things, the lack of available testing was a real problem at the time in July when we were trying to come up with resocialization plans. And the testing just wasn't really available where we had a comfort level that we were going to be able to pull this off. The cost of the testing, the liability of everyone involved. There were a lot of question marks out there that still in many ways are unanswered. So that leaves us in a more planning mode once again now as we look to shift everything to the spring semester. So currently we have no athletic competitions until January 1st. We have developed a plan for how we envision this all playing out as we hope that the health crisis improves as we move towards, and we have an eye on that as well. Right now we have a 4-game football season that is scheduled between March and April. There are 2 bye weeks in there to try to, in case we have to shut things down from certain points. We have a 9-game men's and women's soccer season in a 1 round of a PAC tournament as well to crown a champion. We have a 7-game field hockey season upcoming in the spring, plus all the winter and spring sports season. So it could be a very interesting spring semester. I have our calendars right here that we've been working on all the time with our coaches and our staff of everything that we potentially could have going on. We also have a 9-match volleyball schedule that we will be playing during the spring semester for our first time. So we have a lot going on. We have a lot of exciting things in place, and we are dedicated to pulling this off. It is going to be a daunting task for all of us and for the entire campus community involved, but we have a plan that we're very excited about. We think that will work for us. We're hoping the testing becomes more readily available, obviously, and there are some good signs from the NCAA that is a good, strong possibility as well as the cost of that testing. Getting rapid testing results back that we can have in 15 minutes is something that is very important to us. And right now that is not available to us. We don't find out until 48 and sometimes 72 hours later, which makes getting back to competition very difficult, as you can imagine. Coaches, you can ask, what are the coaches doing right now? They're working hard on recruiting again. They are after it every day. We've had over 200 visits, athletic visits to campus, starting once we started returning to the office back in July. So we have 201 visits as of today, I believe. As of Monday, we had 260 student athlete applicants. And at this point last year, we had 119. So we have 140 more applicants that are interested in playing sports at Washington and Jefferson College. Of those 260 applicants, 94 of those have already been admitted to Washington and Jefferson and are receiving their scholarships and financial aid packages soon. And just to give you an idea of where we were at this point last year, we only had 1 student athlete who had been admitted at this point. So our coaches working hard with our enrollment team to really use this time to get back to recruiting and to recruit talented young men and women to this college, as we've always done. And our coaches are doing a really, really nice job of doing it. They're frustrated, obviously, not playing games for fall sport coaches. They're frustrated, but at the same time, we have developed resocialization practices for all of our teams. And it started with 2 weeks of small group instruction where they were not allowed to have more than 10 on a field or on a court at a given time. In order to just reduce the risk and mitigate that risk as much as possible as we return to practice. We staggered the time so the teams didn't have a lot of interaction with one another who were sharing fields together. But nearly all of our teams are back to practice right now. And the feedback that I'm receiving from coaches and our support staff, our sports medicine team, is that it's been great for the student athletes to get back to somewhat normal. To see them out, the volleyball players out on a court outside of where I am right now and practicing 3 times a week. It is something that has been very beneficial to them and has helped them get back. It's not the same as practicing 5 times a week and going to play that game on the weekends, but it's been very beneficial to the students. It's given them something to look forward to each day, and the competitions are still there. These student athletes realize that we're going to get back to competitions during the spring semester, and there are battles for positions in different groups, and first year players that want to prove themselves to the coaching staff and to the upperclassmen and upperclasswomen. So there's a lot that can happen and can be conducted through the practices that we have right now. And I want to again thank our sports medicine team for everything that they have done. We have shut off locker rooms. It's a little bit strange, but we're not letting student athletes use the locker rooms. They go back to their residence halls after practice. They come ready for practice. Those are just some of the things that we've done to mitigate the risk of the spread of COVID. They bring their own water bottles to practice every day, and things have been different. We tell them to space out their equipment 6 feet apart, and credit to our students. They have adhered to all the policies, all the guidelines. They understand why we're doing things this way, and it's for the health and safety of everybody involved. So kudos to the student athletes. They haven't complained. They haven't said like this is too much for me. They just really enjoy being out on the playing field and having that opportunity during the fall semester here. So with that said, I know we have some questions that have already been asked, and I would be happy to answer any questions that anybody has, Kaylee.
All right, perfect. Yeah, let's get into the Q&A portion. First question is, what are some of the things that the college/athletics department is doing to keep athletes, coaches, fans, and the community, the college community engaged?
Yes, and number one, I would say for the athletes and the coaches is the ability to practice, and everybody in Division III is kind of looking at this differently, and we have the college has worked very hard to produce a biweekly COVID testing policy where we have a random sample of our student athletes that are tested every 2 weeks. We just conducted our second round of testing this past Sunday. And so in order, the NCAA has some guidelines, and some of them are mandates and some of them are suggestions. But when you're in a practice period, when you're not competing against outside competition, it is a suggestion to test 25 to 50% of your student athletes that are practicing on your campus. So that's something that we felt as an athletic department that it was important to allow our student athletes to practice. That's a big portion of why they chose Washington and Jefferson College. That's from a fitness standpoint, it's good to get them out there, and especially when the weather is still nice here during the early part of the semester. So that is something that we are doing for our coaches and athletes. We felt it was important. Some campuses are not allowing practice. Some campuses are not allowing coaches to go off campus to recruiting. But we felt that as long as we had the measures in place to make sure that we had a healthy and safe environment here, that it was the right thing to do to offer these practices to our students, to offer the ability to our coaches to go to different events. High schools around here are playing fall sports, and so we want coaches to be able to go out and have that opportunity to recruit athletes. From the fans in the college community, obviously, like I mentioned earlier, it is an exciting time to look forward to those events like homecoming and everything that involves homecoming, all the parties surrounding it, all the events, all of the reunions that take part in, and then having our athletic events as part of that. So it's been tough without that, to be quite honest with you. One of the things that we're doing is trying to highlight through our sports information director, Aaron Thompson, who's in charge of our website and our social media accounts, to highlight the great accomplishments of the past, to have those great memories, and to use our social media channels to use this date in history. So what happened on September 29th in our history. So Aaron goes back and looks at that and reminds everybody that follows us on social media, that looks at our website of some of the great accomplishments that we've had in our past history. Aaron, some of you may know, Aaron has created an Alumni Spotlight series where we have a Q&A with alumni. We've asked some of our great student athletes of the past to participate and to provide some questions and answers of why did you choose W&J? What was your favorite memory at W&J? What are some of the things that you can share for advice for current athletes that you remember from your career at W&J? So we look to highlight some really cool alumni in the weeks ahead as well, as a way to engage with the college, engage with our fan, and also it's an educational experience as well for our first year students who may not know W&J as well, and who may not have heard all the stories and aren't taking place in those team meetings right now, where coaches can let those first years know about some of the great past history that we have at this college. So we can use these opportunities and highlight those alumni through social media and through our website as a reminder to what it means for the tradition of President's Pride here at W&J.
Perfect, thanks, Scott. Next question is, what does the day of an athlete look like right now?
To be honest with you, it's not too much different outside of the competition. We have about 305 student athletes who opted into to living on campus this semester, and we have about 558 athletes overall. So we have 250 students who are learning remotely right now, or who are commuter students who are not participating in these practices. So it's a little different for them, and I use our volleyball team as an example of this. Coach Lauren London-Law, who's a great young coach for us and is going to lead us to our next volleyball championship for sure. She has about 60% of our team that are here learning on campus and participating in practices. So we have 40% of the student athletes on the volleyball team who aren't. So Lauren brings out a laptop every day to practice, sits it on a chair, and the students who are remote learners can watch practice, and they are not missing out on anything except participating in the practice themselves. So we're trying to find ways to engage those students who are remote learners and who are commuters right now, who are not able to participate in the practices on campus. That's really been the biggest change. But our students are going to in-person classes. Some of them are on campus and have virtual classes as well. But it's we try to make it as normal as possible. Due to some of the COVID policies that I mentioned earlier, one of them that I didn't mention is that we don't have any in-person team meetings this year. We don't have the space to space out and have in-person meetings, so we do everything virtually. So we may have a virtual team meeting before practice, and then all of a sudden we meet at practice. So we have a bunch of different ways to do that, and those students who are remote learners who are commuters can still participate in those team meetings and be able to find out what's going on without actually participating. So it's everything is abnormal, obviously, for all of us right now. But in many ways, like I'm really happy that we've been able to at least provide an experience for the 305 student athletes who are on campus that sort of mimics what they would have on a normal Monday through Friday.
Now, what can alumni do to support the student athletes during this time? And kind of tying it into a question that we received through Q&A, what area of athletics has the highest need for philanthropic support?
Well, I would say all of us in athletics, but it's really we through some initiatives that have recently been started by the great work of our alumni engagement team with Day of Giving. Our alumni have been so generous to our athletic program and to our student athletes. I would say that there is not one sport or one area that needs any more than any other, to be honest with you. Our coaches do a lot of fundraising on their own to support trips, like I mentioned, to spring break to Florida for baseball and softball, to South Carolina for golf. Those are ways that alumni can easily help support those programs, because our student athletes and coaches, they do work really hard for some of those fundraising efforts. They don't come out of our typical normal operating budget. Those are things above and beyond what we normally do. Our women's basketball team likes to take a trip to either Florida. They've gone to the Bahamas before. They do that once every 2 years, and so that's above and beyond the normal operating budget. So there are always ways to support those programs, and I'd be happy to talk to any alumni that's interested in any of those opportunities. But those are ways that, like, we can support the experience of the student athlete, and to really enhance it, to provide those opportunities for everybody. But for alumni in a non-philanthropic manner, one of the great things that alumni can do is to just reach out to coaches and say, hey, how can I play a role? I can't tell you how many times alumni from Ohio or New York have reached out to either myself or to a coach and say, hey, I saw this really good player the other night playing, and maybe you should reach out to her, and maybe she can help the soccer program. Little things like that go a long way. Our coaches do a great job of recruiting, but there are athletes all over the country that can slip through the cracks from areas that we're not able to attend at a certain time. So one of the best things that alumni can do is be referrals for us. Especially for those of you who love athletics, who love going to high school events or youth events. Any tip that you can give to any of our coaches or myself and say, like, hey, maybe you should consider Sarah from upstate New York. We saw her play soccer, and she was a heck of a player. Those little things can all add up and can really enhance our recruiting efforts. So it may not be anything that is earth-shattering by any stretch, but it never hurts to just shoot Coach Sirianni an email and say, Coach, I saw this high school football game on TV, and this player was fantastic, and you may not even know of him. So that's one small way I think that alumni can really help us out as an athletic department to help spread the word.
Oh, that's great to know. Thanks, Scott. And you touched on recruiting efforts a little bit, but a question that we got in was, how have recruiting efforts changed since COVID?
Yes, the NCAA has provided great flexibility for us to use virtual platforms like Zoom. And that's really been a game changer for us. It is, as you can imagine, not too often do our coaches go out to the West Coast and recruit. That takes resources, that takes time, and we don't have, in Division III, we don't necessarily have the large coaching staffs where we can send a coach to California for 2 weeks and to try to go find the best water polo players out in California. There are times that we are able to do that, and usually we do that like during spring break when our teams travel west to California. The coach will spend a little bit of time while he's out there and try to recruit as well. The Zoom platform is something that NCAA had never really allowed before, but under the pandemic has allowed. And it's been great. Our coaches have been on Zoom every day, setting up different visits via Zoom with families from coast to coast. And it's been a game changer for us. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. It is something that has provided flexibility for us. It helps the coaches as well. It's a much more organized environment. It's a little strange at first until you get used to it. But it is a way for coaches to talk to recruits. We have a new tennis coach, Megan Foster, who's new to college coaching for the first time, and she was able to connect with an athlete from Florida who is interested, a tennis athlete from Florida who's interested in WNJ. That might have taken months in times where we weren't able to use Zoom platforms or FaceTime or recruit. So it has provided great flexibility for us to be able to have those conversations. And the other thing that our coaches know is that while Justin may be on a Zoom call with Coach Foster and talking about WNJ, talking about the academic program, talking about what a great tennis facility that we have here. But Coach Foster also knows that Justin's mother and father are probably just outside the screen listening in as well. So that is part of the recruiting visit that the virtual visit that has been helpful as well, is that we realize that the parents who often guide these decisions and mentor these young men and women and lead them into the right direction, they're often listening as well. So that gives us an opportunity to reach out to them and to reach out to the parents and the guardians as well, and let them know what WNJ can offer for their son or daughter.
Perfect. And our final question is, with the new information provided by the NCAA, will the basketball season start sooner than the January 5th date?
That's a great question, and I will say that that's still a little bit in flux right now. A lot of the decisions that have made by from the NCAA have been kind of Division I top heavy, and just to give you an idea of what that means, 97.3 of the NCAA annual budget for all divisions, Division I, Division II, Division III, come from the CBS Turner contract for the Division I March Madness men's basketball tournament. So that is 97.3% of that annual budget for the entire organization to support all of these student athletes comes from that tournament. Obviously, that tournament did not take place this past year, which has left a great hole in the budgets throughout all three divisions of the NCAA. The NCAA has done its best to not affect the championships in any way, shape, or form. There will be some things that are needed though, and testing is one of them. So one of the policies that came out, one of the guidelines that came out of the resocialization of basketball was the thought that you have to test in COVID tests in 3 non-consecutive days. For each week for basketball. For Division I, for some of the ideas that they have out there and going to bubbles and whatnot, that's something that they are able to do from a resource standpoint. For Division II and Division III, that's a very different story right now. So I don't have the greatest answer to that question right now. I am very hopeful that testing becomes much more available. And we have 15-minute results, and that the cost of testing is much cheaper once we creep towards January here. Do I personally? This is just my opinion. We have conversations with the President's Athletic Conference each week, but in my opinion, basketball season will not start before January 1 or January 5th. We may be able to start practices. We may have some leeway to do that, but I would say that the games, our plan right now is for actual competitions and games will not start before then. Probably, however, some point in the first 2 weeks of January as we creep more toward the middle of January. There's still a lot to be predicated on how the health situation changes. And I'm very hopeful. And as we move forward into the winter here, I'm crossing my fingers every day. We have conversations with the PAC administrators every single week on Fridays to determine what the next path is. And I will say, like we mentioned basketball, when we talk about winter sports, wrestling is another sport that we have some plans in place. And obviously social distancing in wrestling just doesn't happen. You're wrestling someone for 7 minutes on the mat. So that's very difficult in the sport of wrestling. So Coach Prairie and I are coming up with some different ideas of how to do that. We only have 4 wrestlers who opted in to campus housing and are here for the fall semester. So they're just doing some workouts on their own. We're not doing really any live wrestling whatsoever. But swimming and diving is another winter sport as well. So we have some thoughts for that. But to answer the question about basketball, I am very hopeful that come the middle of January, we are in Salvetti Family Gymnasium again, playing basketball games against our PAC opponents. There's still a lot to flesh out with it to see how we get there at this point.
Okay, perfect. We actually got one more question in. The question is, what is athletics doing to strengthen diversity, equity, and inclusion within the athletic department, as well as support student athletes from underrepresented populations?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it is at this point in our history, it is something that we need to take the lead on as an athletic department. And the NCAA has given us a lot of resources and a lot of ideas, and we are going to be working on that together. And for us on this campus, it really starts with our Student Athlete Advisory Council and the work that we do with them. We have 5 great leaders, student athletes, and the first meeting I told them that we are going to work together this semester on social justice issues and what that means on our campus. And our campus is becoming more and more diverse every single day. And that's a great thing because this country is becoming more and more diverse every single day. So it is our duty to make sure that all of our campus is represented and that we are doing everything that we can to make sure that this is a welcoming place at Washington and Jefferson College. We have a long way to go. There is no doubt about that. And at W&J, within the PAC conference, within NCAA Division III. But I think it starts with hearing the voices of our students and hearing what they go through every single day, and what their desires are, where they want to take our department. And I told them, like, we will devote all the resources necessary in order to make that happen. But I really wanted to start with the student voice, because it's one thing for me to come up with ideas and ask our coaches and staff to implement those. But the students are one that make the real change around here. And I want to work with them. I want them to realize that this is an athletic department that supports diversity, that supports inclusion, and that supports change. I just don't want it to become a topic that we talk about when times are really tough in society. I want it to be something that we're doing the hard work behind the scenes and able to make a real difference here at WNJ. And that may be a small difference this year. I don't think we're going to have all of the answers in one semester, especially during a semester when we can't even meet with more than 25 people in an indoor facility. So we have some challenges with that, but it is something that is right at the top of the list for our athletic department. And if we're having this conversation a year from now and we haven't seen positive change from our staffing, from our student body and the way that we react to certain issues, like, shame on me. That would be my fault in not leading us in our athletic department in the right direction.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Scott. This concludes our W&J Athletic update. I want to thank Scott for providing us with this excellent insight into W&J's athletic program. And I want to thank you all, our viewers, for spending this time with us this afternoon. Make sure to check out all the rest of our virtual homecoming week. You can learn more at jconnected.com/homecoming. All right, thank you all and have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.